Sir, this area is reserved for registered guests only. The words sliced through the midday warmth like a blade of frost. Conversations faltered. A splash sounded from the far end of the pool, but the air around the lounging man turned dense with attention. He didn't flinch. Reclined in a sunbeam, dark sunglasses veiling his eyes, a half-melted mango spritzer beside him. His towel was embroidered, his swimwear plain black with no logos. No jewelry, no flash, just calm presence. Then the voice came again, firmer this time. Sir, this section is private. Are you staying here? A tall woman in a pale blazer, ID badge clipped prominently, loomed beside him, clipboard gleaming in sunlight. Her expression tried to appear polite, but her eyes told a different story. Icy and accusatory. Guests nearby began shifting in their loungers. A man in a robe snickered. Probably snuck in from the beach, he muttered. Another voice chimed in louder. Here we go again. Still, the man remained silent. Slowly, he reached for his drink, sipped, and finally rose. His shoulders broad, his form quiet but commanding. His jaw, however, had set firm. Is there an issue? He asked in a tone low and deliberate. Yes, the woman answered. You're in a VIP zone. If you can't verify your booking, I'll have to ask you to leave. Behind her, a security guard had materialized, arms folded, radio clipped to his shoulder. Cameron glanced around. Families lounging, couples sipping champagne, attendants folding towels with surgical grace. Yet all eyes now pierced him, as if he alone were the disturbance. His hand moved to his side bag. He paused, fingers hovering near the zipper. A voice inside murmured, "Not yet." He looked back at her. "And what if I'm just here to relax?" Her smile disappeared. "Then security will be contacted," she said flatly. "You're making the guests uneasy." Silence grew thick, long enough for a child's laughter to echo in the space, long enough for the woman to shift on her heels. He stood, not with hostility, but with intent. A movement that said, "You really don't know who you're speaking to." He didn't yell. He didn't wave a card. Not yet. If you've ever felt invisible in a room you earned your way into, hit that subscribe button. Too many voices go unheard, and you staying silent now just proves them right. Because sometimes, silence holds more power than proof. In that moment, something became painfully evident. They had no idea who they had just tried to belittle. But that wasn't even the shocking part. What happened next would upend everything the resort thought it understood. Let's rewind. Cameron Wade hadn't always lounged under five-star umbrellas. Not long ago, he couldn't afford even a roadside inn, let alone a luxury getaway with views of the Pacific. He used to watch these places from construction scaffolding, shirt drenched in sweat, seeing wealthy families bask in comfort below. He'd wonder what it must feel like to simply exist without suspicion. Now, he was a partner in private equity, owner of 6 resort properties, this one included. And yet, they saw his skin before his surname. The guard took a step forward. "Sir, I'm going to need to see your room key." Cameron turned to face him, tall, upright. But it wasn't his size that unsettled. It was the silence. He didn't reach for his wallet or his bag. He just met the guard's eyes. "I won't be showing you anything," he said, "until you explain why you approached me, and not the 6 others who've been here longer." The guard paused. "We got a complaint." Cameron tilted his head. "From who?" "That's confidential, sir," the woman interrupted stiffly. A nearby couple murmured behind their drinks. "He's making it worse," one man said. Cameron heard it. He heard everything. Yet still, no raised voice. Instead, he leaned back slightly, then asked the question that cracked the air wide open. "What do you think I'm doing here?" No one responded, because answering would expose the bias, the assumptions, the unofficial policy to challenge some more than others. The guard tapped his radio. "We can call the front desk to confirm." "No need," Cameron said with a faint smile. "Not warm, not amused. Just a warning. You're about to regret this." Still, he didn't produce the key. Not yet. He wanted to see how far they'd go. Just then, a waiter approached in a hurry, tray trembling. He leaned in. "Sir, I think I recognize you. Should I call the director?" Cameron nodded, quietly. The waiter spun around and disappeared through the bar doors. But murmurs had grown into whispers. Phones out now. One live stream already captioned, "Black man harassed at luxury resort." TikTok was watching. And still, the real story hadn't been told. Not yet. Because in the next few moments, a woman would walk through those glass doors and say something that would freeze the entire pool. The door slid open with a hush. A woman in a navy dress walked out. Her heels clicked softly across the stone. She wasn't rushing, but the weight of her walk said she knew something serious was happening. She scanned the pool deck, locked eyes with the waiter, then turned toward Cameron. For a long second, no one moved. Phones up. Titles everywhere. Racist resort incident. Viewers spiked. "I need to know what's happening here," she said sharply as she approached. The woman in the cream blazer stiffened. "He couldn't show his reservation. We suspected he wasn't a guest." The director glanced at Cameron, then at the guard. Cameron remained silent, just raised an eyebrow, letting the silence respond in his place. "Name, sir?" she asked. He reached into his bag again, slowly, with purpose. When his hand came out, it was empty. "You already know who I am," he said. "Or you should." The director blinked. Recognition flashed across her face. But before she could say anything, the woman in cream snapped. "We don't have time for games. Sir, unless you prove you belong." Cameron turned fully to her. "You've made two assumptions," he said. "One about where I stay, one about whether I belong." She started to respond. "No, let me finish." He looked around the pool. "You asked if I had a key. I don't." He let the silence breathe. "Because I don't stay here. I own it. If this moment hit you even half as hard as it should have, don't just scroll past. Click subscribe, because staying quiet when the truth lands this loud is complicity." The hush was instant, heavy. Then the woman in cream scoffed. "Anyone can say that. Doesn't make it true." And then she said it, loud enough for every phone to capture. "You people always act like you're above the rules." Gasps cracked through the silence. Phones shifted. A drink nearly dropped from someone's grip. Cameron didn't flinch, but something inside him clenched. He'd heard that line before, at a gas station, in an office lobby, during a board meeting in Houston. "You people." It always meant the same thing, no matter how politely it was dressed. He turned to the director, calm and controlled. "Would you like to see my credentials now?" he asked softly. Her voice wavered. "Yes, yes, I would." Cameron reached into his bag again, this time producing a sleek black folio. He opened it with deliberate grace. Inside were 3 sharp-edged documents, nestled between fine leather. He held the top page up like a final reveal. The page bore the platinum-lettered header, Wade Global Ventures. Beneath it, equity partner Oceana Lux Properties. Bold, in the center, Cameron Ellis Wade. The director blinked. Once, twice. He passed her the rest. Ownership documents, internal memos, founding investor contracts for the very resort they were standing in. By the 3rd paragraph, she let out a breath. "This isn't just verification," she murmured. "You sit on the ownership council." That line rippled across the pool deck like thunder in clear skies. The bartender froze mid-shake. The lounge chairs creaked no more. The security guard instinctively stepped back, his hand falling away from his radio. The woman in the cream blazer stood frozen. Here, blinking hard, silent. Cameron turned to the director. "Now do you understand why I didn't rush to show a key card?" She nodded slowly. "Mr. Wade," he raised a hand. "I'm not here for an apology," he said. "I'm here for accountability." He stepped toward the woman in cream. "You assumed I didn't belong. You spoke to me as if my existence needed permission." Her lips parted, but no sound came. "You said people like me," he continued. The words hit like stone. If hearing that line made you uncomfortable, good. That's what change feels like. Subscribe now, or explain in the comments why you'd rather stay comfortably silent. How many others have you said that to? People who didn't have ownership documents to stop you? People without a name you feared? A phone nearby dinged with a notification. Cameron's eyes didn't leave hers. "Today, you chose the wrong man to underestimate." He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply stood, solid, unshaken, as her entire illusion crumbled. The air itself seemed to shift around him. The director still held the documents, her voice faint. "I'll handle this immediately." But Cameron wasn't done. "This isn't about one staffer," he said. "It's about the rot beneath." He sat back down, not to retreat, but to reclaim. He picked up his sunglasses, slid them on, and pulled out his phone. "Lena," he said into it, "pull up internal operations access for Oceana Lux, Pacific Division." Pause. "Yes, now." He didn't fill the silence. He let the uncertainty do it. The director stepped forward. "Mr. Wade, if there's anything—" "You can wait," he said flatly. "And while you're waiting, fetch the full roster for today's front-of-house staff. I'll need review privileges in the next 30 seconds. That sentence hit like an aftershock. The cream blazer woman looked sick. The guard stepped further away. A waiter dropped a spoon, It echoed far too loudly. Cameron remained calm, voice smooth but razor-sharp. "People think public embarrassment is enough," he said. "But a lesson that fades in a week isn't a lesson. It's a delay." Lena's voice came through the phone. "You now have full override, sir. System synced." He opened the dashboard. Layers of access unfolded, every department, complaint log, and time-stamped interaction. There it was, flagged. Non-verified guest behavior poolside. He tapped. The report had already been started by the same woman now 10 feet away. Full of vague phrasing, guest refused to show credentials. Created disruption. He turned the screen toward the director. "Would you like to confirm the author?" She squinted, nodded grimly. "That's her employee ID." He turned the phone back, then attached this incident to her formal HR record. Mark, assumed unauthorized presence, attempted removal of equity partner without verification, escalated using biased judgment. He tapped. It submitted. No raised voices, no drama, just system protocol doing what it was designed to when you were the one who built it. The woman finally spoke, voice cracking. "Mr. Wade, I didn't know." "And that," Cameron said, eyes still on his screen, "is the problem." He set the phone beside his glass, and something in the air shifted again. This time it wasn't tension, it was reverence. Stillness, like the entire world had tilted slightly toward him. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I'm not here to destroy anyone," he said quietly, "but I'm also not here to let things slide." The director nodded. "We'll begin immediate disciplinary." "No," he interrupted. "Not discipline. Reform." She blinked. Excuse me?" Cameron stood again, taller somehow. Or maybe the room just saw him differently now. "You don't fix a culture by slapping wrists. You fix it by changing what it tolerates, what it excuses, what it ignores." The director swallowed visibly. "We'll revise guest interaction procedures immediately." "Not enough," he said, calm but heavy. "This isn't about procedures. It's about assumptions. I want mandatory anti-bias training. Real training. Paid hours. Certified instructors. Not generic slideshows." She nodded again, slower now. "I want an audit of how guest complaints are prioritized. Staff shouldn't treat every nervous phone call as gospel, especially when it reeks of profiling." Her lips parted. "And I want a platform," Cameron continued, "where guests who've had moments like this can report directly to the executive level, bypassing reception. Straight to the board." The air stilled again. This wasn't conversation anymore. It was instruction. Cameron wasn't angry. He was just done tolerating. He turned to the pool. Still shimmering, he heard glasses clink. A breeze lifted the corner of his linen shirt. A memory surfaced. He was 19. Saved up 6 months for a weekend in Miami with his best friend. Stayed at a cheap motel. Walked over a mile just to peek at a beachfront resort. A man in a polo stopped them. "This isn't for you. Keep moving." No check, no greeting, just rejection. Now that voice wore a blazer and held a clipboard. Cameron looked back at the director. She seemed smaller, not physically, but in perspective. He picked up his now lukewarm drink, sipped, and reached for his phone again. "Lena," he said, "draft a statement. Subject line, leadership, bias, and institutional responsibility." Pause. "Yeah. It's going to the board first, then public. This wasn't about her anymore." Or the resort. This was about the system, the precedent, the message. "This won't stay in the shadows," he said, then sank into the same lounge chair they'd tried to evict him from. This time, no one moved. Within an hour, the internal memo had gone out. By nightfall, it had leaked. By morning, Forbes had the full text. He didn't do interviews, didn't chase headlines. But they came anyway. Investor shuts down racism at 5-star resort. Read the statement that's forcing industry reform. Other resort partners scrambled to respond. Some implemented changes, some resisted. Cameron's stance remained the same. Those who refuse reform will not keep my investment. By noon the next day, a fellow investor posted, "Been silent too long. Proud to stand with Cameron Wade. Change is overdue." But at the pool, the very place it began, things felt slower. The same guests who smirked the day before now avoided eye contact. Some nodded. Some looked ashamed. Some pretended they'd seen nothing. But they had, and he knew it. A young man, maybe mid-20s, approached. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry," he stammered. "I didn't speak up yesterday. I should have." Cameron didn't scold him, just looked him in the eyes. "That moment," he said, "wasn't about your voice. It was about what you chose to ignore." The man nodded, ashamed, and walked off. Around them, the resort buzzed. Servers adjusted umbrellas, guests lounged like nothing happened. But something had shifted. Respect had replaced spectacle, and discomfort had replaced silence. He hadn't slept well that night, not because of noise or luxury sheets, but because of what echoed in his mind after the crowd went quiet. Too many rooms like that. Not luxury suites, but back offices. Job interviews where he sat 1 inch lower than the desk. Flights where he was steered to coach without being asked. Bookstores where security watched his every move. Now, he was the one being watched again, but with reverence. A boy walked by with his dad. He paused, turned to his father, then stepped forward. "Are you the man from the phone?" Cameron smiled faintly. "Which phone?" "The one who changed the rules." Cameron nodded once. The boy grinned and held out his hand. They shook. "Thanks for showing him what it means to push back." "Brett," the father said. Cameron didn't answer, because part of him didn't feel heroic. He felt tired of carrying the weight of always proving he belonged. He looked out across the pool. Perfect surface. Beneath it, pipes, filters, pressure, just like everything he'd built. What if success didn't have to be protest, he wondered? What if presence wasn't rebellion? Somewhere nearby, a voice whispered, "That's him." He didn't turn. He just watched the water shimmer, like 1,000 questions no one had the courage to ask.